Suburban Kings, season 2, episode 6. Should
Yes,
be like
sir.
8, but we had a couple bricks there and we messed up, but we're doing it. We're doing it. How's your bracket?
Dude, it's wild.
Let's talk women's bracket first.
Okay.
Let's go there. Because I have mine open.
I didn't fill out a women's bracket.
Your daughter's a certified hooper. You're not. You got to invest in the women's game, John.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed.
I received that. I deserve that.
Yeah.
I hear you. Next year, it's on. I should have done it this year.
Women's game is. I've said this before. Women's basketball, college basketball specifically, is more interesting. You know, and I'm biased because my daughter played at a high level, has played in the last 2 NCAA tournaments. It is, I think, for even people who aren't invested in it like I am, and like you may end up being with your daughter hooping, is the players stay for 4 years. The best players stay for 4 years. Paige Beckers has been at UConn for 4 years. You know, Juju is going to stay at USC for 3 years now because she's going to have the medical redshirt next year. But they play for 4 years, so you get to know them. Yeah. Cooper Flagg is not going to be at Duke next year. You know, they have this amazing roster, and they got, you know, Knipple, who's incredible. They have they're big, who just Cooper Flagg just throws lobs to all game. Crazy. But we're not going to get to know them. We're not going to, you know, for lack of a better term, kind of fall in love with their story and their journey because they're in and out. And you know, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but the stories, what makes the tournament especially exciting is just kind of the stories, the human.
You know, I think that might be a little bit why we're hearing these questions of men's college basketball. Like, is it losing its, you know, appeal? You know, are less people engaged? I think it's because women's basketball's on the up, and those stories shine through. Where with the guys, they're not quite there.
Yeah,
they're struggling with stuff to talk about. They talk more about the men's coaches than they do the men's players.
Yeah. No, Paige Beckers is absolutely hooping in the tournament for their first 3 games or 4 games. I think she's averaging 34 points. Absolutely balling out. And, you know, she was the number 1 prospect out of high school, all the hype. You know, you were hearing more about her than Caitlin Clark at the same time. I think they're in the same class, but Paige Becker had a medical red shirt. She had some injuries and stuff and just a bumpy ride in college. And so, you know, my daughter and I were talking, watching that game. Like, I'm happy for that kid, for Beckers, because, you know, we've been following her for 5-6 years. You know, we follow high school and everything, so we love basketball. But to see it kind of come together and her have this moment, even though, you know, every time she's played into the tournament, they've made the Final Four. UConn's just that good all the time. Pretty dang exciting, and just watching her hoop has been rad. So.
Yeah, 3 years ago we started following Haley Van Lith just because you know, my daughter, for better or for worse, she is an Angel Reese fan, and so she followed LSU. You know, and, you know, Haley Van Lith. She played at Louisville, right, before LSU, and then she came over to TCU, and now, I mean, our UT, the Lady Horns, is our second team. I mean, we're Beaver fans in our house, you know. Yeah, rightfully so.
But Haley Van Lith is, I remember being at a tournament in Dallas her freshman year of high school. My daughter was still in 8th grade, and she was playing in those kind of, you know, tournaments where everybody comes from all over the country. And one of my good friends and one of the kind of scouting service guys, like, hey, you got to go over to this court and watch this Haley Van Lith kid. Just hooping, cooking kids as a freshman, cooking juniors. She just has always had just a crazy handle. Just, you know, she's like a Ja Morant, you know, type of player. She's fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, hook 'em horns at this point. We got it. We're homers. We love cheering for the home team. So
no, we love Rory Harmon, their point guard. AJ played with Rory at USA 3-on-3. They were teammates.
Cool.
And so they ran through that tournament back when they had finished their sophomore year. They were like, it was a U19s, so they were invited to play with all the kids who were like seniors and freshmen in college to play against all those older kids. And they did great. They played good, and they actually beat the champions during pool play. And didn't convert on that. But yeah, my bracket on the women's side, I had Notre Dame in Final Four, missed on that. and I had North Carolina State in the Final Four. But almost straight chalk here, where it's number 1 UCLA, number 1 South Carolina, number 1 Texas, and number 2 UConn, the only number 2 in the Final Four, having taken down USC, missing Juju.
That was tough, man. Seeing her go down on the knee injury
always sucks, just sucks. Especially when it's, personally, when it's kids, you've been watching them grow up and your kid's been playing against them and you see them go down, like that just sucks.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think the way UConn, I was worried. I didn't have UConn in the Final Four because they weren't. It's hard to know sometimes with UConn because they play in the Big East and it's not a deep conference, and so you don't know how good they are unless because you only get to see them a couple times during conference play when they'll schedule a non-con game like against the South Carolina or something like that. So it's hard to know, and I didn't have them, so I missed that one. So my women's bracket is not solid. I've only got 2. I only had 2 of the 4 Final Four. So, and you don't have one because obviously you don't like women's basketball. So, well, let me go over the men's side and see how we're doing here. My bracket. If you're looking for my bracket on ESPN, everybody, it's the Bonnie situation. Did okay, straight chalk on the men's side, all number 1s in the Final Four.
Yeah.
What's that say? What does that mean? What do you think?
I think that the NIL is having it's leveling out the playing field. I think that teams are good across the board, but the best teams are the best teams. Like it's
all four teams are from the Mega Four conferences.
Yeah.
So you got 2 SEC teams, ACC, Big 12. Houston's the Big 12 now, right?
Yeah.
And so, it's and Houston kind of, they've been a mid-major up until this is their first year, right? The Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always in there. They Phi Slamma Jamma back in the day, Hakeem, Clyde, like that was awesome run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's 2 things. A lot of people are like, oh, there's no more upsets. Like very few upsets this year, especially as you get deeper in here. That's why it's all number 1s.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of that, and it's not the whole answer, is as someone who works in sports analytics, the models and the analytics and the predictions are just much better. The machines that are putting these seedings together are much better than they used to be. Like I think one of the ones here was Louisville. So Louisville on the men's side, they were ranked, I think 13th was the last ranking, but they were an 8 seed in the tournament, and everybody was like, "What 8 seed?
Right?
They should be no 13 or whatever was ever ranked higher than a 5." But the model got it right. They got clapped by 9 seed Creighton in the first round. Yeah. So it wasn't that far off.
I would have loved to have just been a fly on a wall. In one of those selection committees in the 80s. There's a bunch of guys sitting around smoking cigarettes, drinking whiskey. Oh, we put them in there. Then looking at the machines now, like the difference. I bet it was a wild selection committee.
The big drama was North Carolina getting in. Like they shouldn't have been in. They put them in a play-in. Yeah. And their athletic director is on that committee. And he gets like a $150K bonus whenever the men's team makes the tournament. So they put him in the play-in, and did they make it? And then I can't remember.
No, they didn't get far. I don't even know if they got past that.
They call it the round of 68, the first 4 or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's not even the bracket. You can't even pick it. So I don't know why they do it. It's like they're trying to make it look. Obviously it's a money grab. They're trying to get more TV time. Yeah, they did make it. So they won their play-in game, and then they got beat by Ole Miss. So it was like that was probably the real suspect one in there. But yeah, straight chalk on the men's side, all 1s. I have Florida winning it all. Where are you at?
I'm pulling for Duke. Auburn, the center, hurting his arm. I didn't get an update on his arm in his last game, but he got hurt. And I don't, he's their dog. So like, if they have him, they looking good. But man, Houston's so fast and so good on defense, and they can handle the ball. They can move the ball. They can shoot the ball. And oh man, I just feel like it's just, and at this point, anybody can win. It's going to be really good. But I'm pulling for Duke. I'm a huge Knipple fan. And then also it's hard not to love Cooper Flag. And I think the thing I don't like about him is how much attention he gets. It makes me not want to like him. But I
And then
love
you
him.
watch him hoop.
Then I
and he's
watch
the
him hoop.
And he's the truth.
Awesome.
He's the truth.
He's so fun to watch. I love his demeanor. He's got a good balance between just a monster, but also, you know, he'll smile, you know, and he's got a great, it's on the court. He's just got a great personality.
And the lineup they put on the floor is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Knipple looks like an undersized guard.
He does.
He looks like when you watch Duke play and you watch him get down the floor and you watch them run their actions, you look at Knipple and you're like, oh, that guy's 6'2", 6'3". Homie is 6'7".
Wow.
He's Luka Doncic.
Wow.
Like that's what he is. That's how, and he moves like a 6'2" dude. So very underrated.
Yeah.
You know, he's a lottery pick. He's gonna do well. I wasn't really watching them the whole bunch this year because I watched the women's game most of the year, and then once the conference tournaments start up, I start to watch both.
Yep.
But yeah, Knipple is he's gonna be a lottery pick this year. You know, first watching, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy's good. Then you look at how big he is. He's 6'7", but it's because Maluwak is 7'2".
Oh man!
And we look at him like
so
that
tough.
guy's 6'10". You know, they are massive,
right?
So they are going to be a problem for Houston, who's undersized. I didn't have Houston going to the Final Four. I had Tennessee beating them in that last game because of the size issue. But Houston, they are feisty. They
and the Gators
hard.
seem like their stock has dropped. The past two games they sneaked by.
I'm worried.
They have barely gotten in these past two games. So they're not looking as good not as sharp as they were going into the tournament.
Watching Duke play, man, it's hard. Yeah, if they can stay healthy, I don't see how these other three teams can beat Duke right now. So.
Yeah, and Proctor, man, he's an awesome guard. He's fun to watch.
Yeah.
For Duke. You know, he could shoot the ball, and he looks like an NBA player, just the way he moves, and they're stacked. Yeah,
he's not a little dude. He's 6. He also looks like a small guard. There are two guards out there that look small, but they're 6'6" and 6'7" in the backcourt.
That's so crazy.
They put a jumbo package on the floor when they roll out there. It's terrifying. And even their coach looks small, and he's not a small dude. I think he's 6'6". John Shire, who's got a cool story, and I'll touch on this one last thing because he didn't get drafted, but he got a summer league contract, and then in a game or workouts he got poked in the eye, almost lost his eye, ended his NBA career, kind of tinkered a little bit overseas, and just wasn't going to work out because I don't think he has one of his eyes is not right, like there's something wrong with it. So he did. I think he went to Spain and played a little bit, but he immediately came back, and Duke did it right in terms of succession from Coach K, because you're talking this legendary coach. They put Shire under, and he's been in the program being ready to take over for years. And even when he's first couple of years, I think this is his third year, first couple of years, Coach K is riding along, helping with recruiting, going to games. They did a good job. Then I look at Stanford women, who have up until recently the most winningest coach in all college. And when they moved over to the ACC, she's like, "Fuck that! I'm not flying to New Jersey." And they didn't even make the tournament this year because they had no succession plan. So, Anyway, I love basketball. I love basketball. So
these are the times.
Let's jump into it. First off, sad news, and I say that with an excited voice, I guess. We've lost Val Kilmer, who. Not a surprise if you've been following. We've been expecting that. I love Val Kilmer. He's a true artist in the acting space. If you ever saw Val, that documentary,
I didn't, but I know.
You've got to see it. You've got to see it. So if you're listening, I believe it's on Prime. It's only on Prime. I think they produced it or funded it or whatever. It's on Prime, and I think it's entirely archival footage. So it's and it's almost all Val Kilmer's footage. Like he's just had this thing where he's been carrying around first like an actual film, 8mm film camera all the way up through VHS and High 8, all that stuff through his whole life, and he's just kind of filmed everything. Always wanted to be an actor. Made little goofy films with his friends in his basement as a kid. And so the documentary is built on this, and he has a pretty abrupt, tragic part of his story where his dad, I can't remember how intentional it was, but screwed him over financially and just wiped him out. right about the time he got throat cancer in 2014.
Oh man.
So he went through it. So if you've seen that, and then you go see that the Top Gun Maverick,
Mm-hmm.
and you see his role in there, like it was hard for me not cry.
Yeah.
When he was in Top Gun Maverick, because I knew what Val had gone through and how much Tom Cruise did for him to help him to have him include and rework the movie so we can include Val, who couldn't speak.
Right.
So just a brilliant actor. Every one of his roles he totally immersed in. What's your favorite Val Kilmer joint?
80s slapstick comedy, Top Secret.
Oh,
It's deep in the archives. It's it didn't get a whole lot of attention, but for some reason we had it on VHS when I was a kid, and I watched that movie more times than I should have. Like, it's not that good of a movie. It just holds a lot of nostalgia for me. It's super entertaining. It's a true slapstick, almost in the way of like a Naked Gun.
kind of a dying genre.
Yeah. It's so corny, so cheesy, but it's hilarious at the same time because of that. And it actually shows his entertainment side, his ability to really entertain. He sings in it, he like dances in it. He puts on a show in that movie.
Triple
and he's
threat.
hilarious. And then it's like this undercover. He plays the Top Secret. He plays an undercover dude. And so that really set it for me. And then of course you can't have Top Gun without the Iceman. And you're just such a cool dude, man. What about you?
There's a couple things. One, I have to make nod to his Jim Morrison in The Doors. Like it's got to be one of the best impersonations, if you will, of a real life person figure in a movie, done as a dramatic reenactment. His Jim Morrison is so bang on. Like, it is bang on. And so I think that's just impressive, his ability to do that. Obviously, his Doc Holliday is just, it carries that movie from scene to scene. A great movie, carries that. But I want to kind of introduce people to one that maybe they haven't seen.
Batman 3?
No. In 2005, Shane Black has done some movies that I really like, and funny enough, they always seem to be around Christmas. Let me see which one I want to make sure I get this right. So, yeah. So Shane Black, he's the director. Who's the writer on this? The movie's called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He's not the lead. Robert Downey Jr. is the lead. Val Kilmer plays a supporting role, and it's the first time we saw him when he kind of put on a little bit of weight.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a private detective. His name is Perry. We don't know his last name, but he goes by Gay Perry because he's gay. So he's this gay private detective, and it's just it was just it's a good movie. I love Shane Black stuff. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of my favorite Val Kilmer joints, and of course I like him in Heat. Which is one of the best, top 10 all time for me.
Mad Mardigan,
in Willow, his role there was fantastic. Kind of going through his IMDb page and just kind of reminiscing on some stuff. Real Genius, right after he did Top Secret, was great. Let's see here. Yeah, no, he just killed it. But yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is one of those movies I like to recommend because it's really good, and I think a lot of people missed out on that one. But The Saint.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Saint. So I think that was an old books or whatever. But like, this is one of those movies that my kids grew up on because, it's a movie that you can enjoy as parents, but it's also fairly kid friendly. It's an action spy heist,
Elizabeth Shue
kind of thing with a little bit of humor in there, but there's really no cussing, there's no boobies. But it's one of those, like, this is the whole family kind of movie, The Saint. So that was 1997. That's one that was always on rotation growing up, where it's like, I don't want to watch a cartoon, but I want to watch a movie with my kids.
Didn't that have a pretty good soundtrack too? I want to say that actually had a good soundtrack.
It did. It was kind of. I'm trying to think here. Yeah, there was a couple songs there. I don't know how much of them were written for it. Like it wasn't a score, as it were, but
Right.
but a soundtrack. But yeah, no, it had a couple in there. You know, kind of techno, synth pop kind of joints in there.
Yeah,
that stick out. But yeah, Val Kilmer, great actor, put a lot of beautiful things in the world. Gonna miss that guy, you know. So
thanks,
I'm glad they put him into Maverick because I think that really kind of put a nice bow on the end of his career.
Yeah,
so.
I agree.
But here we go. Springtime movies. Are there any movies on your list this spring?
Man, no.
Spring's tough.
Yeah, it is.
From once the awards season is over, kind of January, February, it's the doldrums of film releases because I think everybody's waiting for the summer blockbuster. So there's usually not a lot of great stuff, but it's a good time to sneak in some kind of under the radar, almost art house type films.
Cool.
So I kind of was scrolling through the lists of things and added stuff to my list. There's a couple that I do not want to miss. One we talked about a few weeks ago, which is the IMAX 4K re-release of Pink Floyd's Live at Pompeii. That comes out April 24th. I have found an IMAX here in Portland that I can go see it at.
Sweet.
I mean, I love it. You know, I love music, and you know, like you like watching the basement tapes and those types of things.
Yeah.
You like watching
Yeah.
music being performed. As an old guy, sometimes it's almost better than going to a show.
Yeah.
Because I could sit down.
Yeah,
I can
really get into the technicalities of all the things.
Eat and drink, you know, and I'm excited about that. But yeah, Live at Pompeii, April 24th. I bet it's very limited, so you're gonna have to go look for a place to go see that. But that's definitely on my list. Another one I want to throw out there because you still have kids. Remind everyone your kid's age.
10, 13, almost 15, almost 17.
So you're pretty much out of, you know, cartoon focused, Disney focused movies when a movie comes out, right? Like, you know, unless it's one you've been following. So you're not like looking for that. But Disney's done this. They're redoing a lot of their classics in live action.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of them?
No.
If the kids wanted to see them, your kids are just kind of aging out of that.
Yeah.
I've not seen any of them. I really, you know, I mean, you know, I'm not sure.
They just haven't landed. I think the old school Disney was like the beginnings of cartoons, and you know, like the old cartoons is what the animation, and that's what I fell in love with Disney as a kid. And so these live actions, they just feel so just fake, you know, plastic to me.
We've talked before about movies and suspension of disbelief. When it's cartoon, that's off the table. So I don't have a desire to see any of these. For me, I'm just kind of curious. They seem to be kind of flopping. They're just going straight to the, you know, Disney Plus. You know, I don't think people are really going to the theater for these. And my wife had asked the other day, like, what's the deal? Why are they even making these? You know, you ever think about that? What are your thoughts? Why do you think they're making them? I have my hypothesis.
Well, the thing that's weird about it is it just feels like there's a political argument happening around every single one of these. And that's weird to me. Like that's however it's reaching me through my, you know, through my feed. It's like there's this woke, you know, Disney's gone woke. And it's like, why are we making it about politics when this is about, you know, cartoon storytelling?
I think the latest one. So the current one that's coming out this spring, why I bring it up, is Snow White.
Yeah.
Snow White is played by Rachel Ziegler, who is the child of a Polish American father and Colombian American mother. And it sounds like, again, people are in a stink because she's not a straight up white person, and Snow White in the cartoon was white.
Goofy.
Like, honestly, it's one of the things like, I don't care. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, who cares?
Can she act?
Yeah. Is it whatever? You know who can act is Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot.
Okay.
So she's the evil queen.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
She's one of those where like I just don't get it. Like I get it because she's like incredibly beautiful. She is maybe somewhat racially androgynous, so she kind of can appeal to anyone. So I get it why she's in movies. She's just terrible actress.
Right.
So sorry, Gal Gadot.
I mean,
I'm not
it
seeing it.
seems like she could fit that bill. Like, she looks the part. Like, I can see her playing that. But then, yeah, she's
And
not.
that's it. It falls off there. She's been unconvincing. So I think
Yeah,
but yeah, the live action. I think that's part. Who cares about? I think people are getting a stink about the political things.
it's
But
goofy.
for me, obviously, it's just what's the money situation? What's that look like?
Yeah.
And it's Hollywood in general is fairly risk averse right now because, as we've talked about, and as we're seeing, as I look through the spring slate, really there's no comedies of note as we predicted going into 2025. But the comedies are going to start falling away. You're just going to be straight to streaming. They're not going to get big budgets because, and this may be a reason why Disney's doing these re-releases, is it has to be a global success to get big money. If you're going to put three figures, 100 million, 300 million into a movie, it can't just be an American movie. The whole world needs to watch it. Comedy doesn't translate. The other thing is franchises. You can guarantee almost a bottom line of people going to the theater or watching it if it's an Avengers, it's a Marvel. Marvel, just putting Marvel on there, having a familiar character that's free marketing basically. And so the re-release is similar. So how do we change it enough to make people interested? So it's really, I think it's just a money grab to do this. The marketing's already baked in. I don't have to make a new part of the theme park because Snow White's already represented at Disney World.
Yeah.
So that's got to be the core here. It's just a money thing, and so they're just risk averse. And so a re-release, we can't make a Snow White sequel, but we could we could remake it in live action,
Yeah.
which is probably cheaper than probably even trying to do
Yeah.
some kind
I
of
saw that the
origin
Snow
story.
White is like certified rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Like it's got a terrible score.
Yeah, it's a 1.5 on IMDb. So yeah, big, film turd. The other one I
Yeah.
started watching last night. Oh, go ahead. I don't want
I
to
was just
cut
going
you
to
off
say,
on
my
Disney.
kids are going to the movie theater this weekend, or my daughter is with her friends, and
Have
she
they
sat
picked a
there on the
movie yet?
couch. Well, that's the thing. She like
Yeah.
sat there like, Minecraft, Snow White. Like, y'all should
Yeah,
just go
spring.
like go
Yeah,
hang out
spring
by the
is
lake. Like,
spring's weak for movies.
yeah,
That's I get it. Everybody's waiting for summer. So like I think we get that last Mission Impossible this summer.
yeah,
That's exciting.
that should be cool.
The big one, straight to streaming, Netflix. I expect to be let down again, but I started watching it last night. I kind of watched the first act of Electric State. Have you heard of it?
No.
So it is. I see it making lots of noise in the socials because of the price tag on it. It's going to be, if not the most expensive movie made this year, straight to Netflix. They're
Oh,
releasing
okay, yeah.
Chris Pratt, Millie Bobby Brown star in it. Woody Harrelson does a voice. Ke Hui Kwan, Data from Goonies.
Okay,
He's in
yeah.
there.
Oh, wow.
And so, and a bunch of other people there. I think I recall Stanley Tucci is in there. And so it's got, they paid some money for actors, a lot of CG because it's a robot thing. So the premise is it's some kind of post robot war apocalypse,
Okay.
and robots are like banned. And so they live in exile, the robots, and they're sentient and they want to have freedom and that sort of stuff. And I think Woody Harrelson leads the robot people, and Millie Bobby Brown is on a quest of sorts to find somebody. And so when I first started watching it, I totally tuned out after a while, and my wife came by talking. I'm like, I got to rewind it, and I remember telling her, I'm trying to watch this movie, but it's very robot centric, and it's very difficult to get people to care about robots. It's a tricky move. You know, when you think when you go back and look at Wall-E,
Yeah.
how amazing that was to make you care about a couple robots, but how much, but it's one robot. And I've already met dozens of robots, and I'm like, I can't keep up with the robots. How do I care about the robots? It's kind of why that one Star Wars, the Clone Wars, we're like, who cares? Bunch of robots in a war. Who cares? Yeah. So Electric State, I'm watching it. I'll finish it probably tonight or something. I'm prepared to get let down because Netflix is always really safe with their movies. But you know, I have it. T-Mobile pays for my Netflix. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything.
Well, good job watching something, man.
Freaky Tales.
Yeah, no. The Freaky Tales.
The hot actor right now is Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. I'm a fan. I like him.
Did you watch Last of Us?
I got through quite a few episodes. I haven't watched
so good.
It is.
We're excited about the next season. But this one's interesting because my nephew's in it. My nephew plays a pretty good sized role. He plays a Nazi. His name's Troy in the movie. My nephew Dan.
Sweet.
Yeah, he's been working on his acting career. Been in a few things. He was in 13 Reasons Why, and he's in this. It's one of those ones where it's an indie kind of film, you know, made by a couple of directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, that a lot of people don't know. But it's based in NorCal, so it's where I grew up. So it has NorCal stuff in it. Too Short is the narrator, and so I'm loving that. Too Short's in it.
Nice.
And so it's kind of a. I'm trying to understand kind of what it is, but it's an interconnection of stories, you know, that take place over maybe a few days in Oakland, California. Okay. And Pedro Pascal plays the lead, and there's some things going on in terms of getting to snafus. It seems to have done well at the award shows, but not a big blockbuster. You're not going to see a lot about this. It will be I can't imagine it's not at the Draft House. It's playing at the Cinemark over here this weekend. Opens on Friday. Okay. I'll be there to see my nephew go.
Nice, man.
Maybe awesome. See if I can get Dan on the pod. Kind of get his.
You should.
You know, Hollywood guy. So been cool, kind of watching his journey and you know, waiting for this to come out because it's been done for a lot of times. People don't realize movies are often completely done for more than a year before they get released, especially the indie stuff, because they'll make the movie, they get the money to make it. And then the people who invested in it, you know, they want good distribution. They want it to get good marketing and all these things. So that sometimes isn't figured out until later. So the movie's done, then they show it, and they try to get someone to distribute it and do the marketing. So this movie's been done for a while. In fact, it calls it a 2024 movie here on IMDb. I'm sure they may change that to 2025 because unless you've been at one of, you know, like a Sundance or one of the Cannes Film Fest, you have not had an opportunity to see it.
Okay.
Freaky Tales this Friday. I'm gonna go see that. A couple more. Rami Malek. You like you watch Mr. Robot Show or anything like that?
I didn't see Mr. Robot.
Saw Bohemian Rhapsody.
I did see that. I was on a flight. I watched it on a flight.
He did a great job here. This is a spy. I love a spy movie. You like a spy movie? I mean, obviously,
yes.
You know, Top Secret was in there.
Yeah, heck yeah. You know, spy movies are awesome.
What are your jams on the spy movies?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. I mean, it's easy to grab toward like the comedy spy movies, but I like a really good spy movie. Start like rattling.
You like a Tom Clancy, like a Clear and Present Danger, Red October, that kind of stuff. I love a Tom Clancy.
And what are some other
Bridge of Spies? I really liked. There was one Ocean's I never 11. Really understood.
No. That's heist. That's heist. Similar.
Yeah.
007 movies were cool. They're always pretty cool, pretty entertaining. They fit in like the Mission Impossible kind of.
The Mission
genre.
Impossible movies are packaged as a spy movie, but in reality, they're basically heist movies because they're always built around some kind of heist.
True.
So, you know, Tom Cruise trying to break into something to get it. So it's a spy movie, but it's a heist movie.
Yeah.
So I like that. That one with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt. The name escapes me. That one is awesome. Where he's one of the guys he trained and that whole journey, really cool. So it's called The Amateur. Rami Malek plays. he's kind of like Jack Ryan, where he's an office guy at the CIA. He's not a field guy. He doesn't shoot guns or fight anybody. He's just head down at a computer doing stuff. He's a cryptographer, and terrorists kill his wife, and he wants to go fix it himself. So he makes himself into a field guy, and is in over his head, and is probably trying to figure things out and do field spy shit. And so that looks interesting to me. That's probably, I gotta say, it's probably one of the most interesting movies in terms of scale. That's going to do well.
Yeah, Argo.
I would expect
Argo. I was just brought up.
Argo's great.
Movies. Argo was done well. I like that.
I like that one. That one's good. So that one's cool. And then one from titled after my hometown, Sacramento.
Okay.
I
haven't heard of this.
The forgotten fourth city in California. Everyone knows San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, but there's also Sacramento, the capital. It's kind of the Austin of California, if you will.
Okay.
So smaller city, and it looks kind of like. Did you ever see Sideways?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where they go to
the
wine
movie.
It looks like that. It's like two buddies trying to get connected again, and they end up on a road trip. And so they go from where they are in Southern California up to Sacramento and kind of get it. It looks like just kind of a buddy thing. I expect it to kind of be, a slow pace, but it's Michael Cera.
I'm a Michael Cera fan.
Yeah, I like him. And then Michael Angiorano, they're the two leads. And so they're going to go and, maybe reconnect over on a road trip to Sacramento and get into some stuff. So, I'm interested in that one mainly because of the title, but I like that. Looks like a fun indie movie that's out this spring. So I'm excited there. So
awesome.
But Friday, gonna go see Freaky Tales and
I'm excited to hear about that.
Those are definitely a go.
Sweet.
All right. Now, I want to talk about what, at least right now. I don't know if I will always think this. Right now, I still think this is the best movie ever made. And that is No Country for Old Men. I probably watched this movie 4 or 5 times a year since it came out in 2007. And it's always downloaded on my iPad. So when I'm on an airplane and I don't know what to watch, or if I connect to the airplane's movie list, you can open your browser and you can watch movies on the flight that they have. And if nothing there interests me, it's always there. It's one of 4 or 5 movies that's always on my iPad, including Point Break, which is always on the iPad.
Yes, sir.
Ready to watch. But No Country for Old Men. It is movie perfection. And so, at least for me, I want to be I'm being biased here. For me and for what I like in a movie, No Country for Old Men does it for me. It is so good. It has so many layers, and it's very rewatchable. Obviously, for me, I love rewatching it. It's that kind of a movie. But my first question, kind of for you, John, can you remember kind of how it felt, your take on it the first time you saw it, like your initial reaction the first time you saw No Country for Old Men?
Well, man, just the opening with Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. I live in Texas, and so it captures Texas in a way where when he starts talking, it draws you in. He starts telling, it's like a little story at the beginning, and then the visual side of it, just you feel the how big and how particularly when you get south or you get west of Texas, just how flat and how much of a desert and how that country vibe and old towns, old small towns. And so the feel along the way is immediately, it gets going quick. You get Josh Brolin's out hunting and he stumbles upon that situation. And then from there, as a watcher, I have to be engaged with it. I never caught myself disengaged with that movie. It's like, and I, people who know me know I lose attention. Like I have one friend that says I have an attention span of a mosquito. And I'm always all over the place. That movie had me just, I wouldn't say edge of my seat, but with my edge of my attention, like just it. So watching it, it caused me to just do a lot of like my mind was always trying to work to keep up with what the story was trying to say.
Right.
And then just like I couldn't tell what year it was, but it felt, like 80s, 70s,
1980.
Okay, 1980. And I love the wardrobe. I love how they use the vehicles. All the vehicles in that movie were awesome. And then
I would assume almost all of them are period correct based on it.
The clothing,
and that's part of it. That's part of it. What the Coen Brothers did with that movie is the dating of it.
And they did an amazing job with that because I was totally there in that time. Never did I Tesla just drove by. And Josh Brolin, man, he's one of my top 3 favorite actors. He's just the coolest dude. Like when I think of dudes, and his choices of movies or the movies that have found him, he always plays the best roles. And he was awesome in that movie. And so, I mean, he's just like one of those guys, like, man, he is a cool guy. Yeah, he's that kind of dude, like Texas dude on the run. Yeah, he's got the money and he never backs down. He never backs down. When it's like, dude, you need to get out of this situation. This is not going to end well for you.
You're in over your head.
You are in over your head. And
what's his wife say? He'll take all comers.
Yeah.
He ain't never going to quit.
Yep.
And so that's
Which
all
is
of
like
that.
The cowboy way. There's a hint of a Western feel to this movie too. That's the other part I was just going to add. It is like my grandpa was huge on Westerns. So there's a part of me in my lineage where when I think of my grandpa, like I think of a Western, and that movie has a Western feel to it, but like a modern Western in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Similarly is Hell or High Water is a modern Western, where I'll have to bring it up sometime. We will talk about that, the Western versus Eastern versus Southern versus Northern concept of a hero in a movie that Malcolm Gladwell talks about. And a Western, if I recall the way he says it, is the hero comes to a world of outlaws, from the outside to bring justice, and that's what a Western does. So it's lawlessness, and it's an outsider comes to bring justice.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's how he defines a Western. So pretty cool. And the Northern is, where is a place of law, and justice is brought by people within the law, kind of thing. Interesting take, but all that to say, I think you're right on. You're hitting all the things about the movie, how perfectly assembled it seems to be. Even to the point of doing some things that are really out of the ordinary. Trivia: there's no score. In terms of there's no music in the movie. You don't even notice it. There's nothing in the background,
dude. Yeah,
at all. The whole film.
The most subtle things have such an impact. Like,
and that's why
the wind plays a huge part.
The wind when he's at the gas
end.
station talking to that guy. And if you're watching on a good system, and I often am in an airplane with really good headphones, the buzzing of the refrigerators in the convenience store.
Yeah.
It puts you into the scene.
And the scene where the tracker starts going off.
Yeah.
It got my adrenaline going.
It's crazy.
And it made me feel like fear, like a horror movie. It made me feel that, like a little tracker going off in the seat.
Yeah.
And then the end, when she walks into the bedroom and the windows open, the breeze and the curtains flapping in the breeze.
Uses all these ambience to kind of put you there. And I was even looking, like I wanted to validate, am I crazy or is there no music in this? And I kind of looked around, and someone on Reddit had said, well, if you look at minute 3:30, there's like a noise. And so I went and I watched that again, and it's where he's killing that cop with handcuffs in the police station.
Right.
And it sounds like a train is going by. and it just kind of makes that eerie, that kind of squeaky,
Yeah,
wheels,
yeah, yeah,
brakes
yeah,
of a
yeah.
train. It just kind
Uh-huh.
of, it puts
Yeah,
this
captures
just
it.
subtle, violent, annoying
Yeah,
noise
right.
in while this calculated murder is happening, just cold and emotionless.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
And the
So
sound of his weapons, like the
yeah,
oxygen tank and the
yeah,
sound when he engages it and how powerful it feels, and then the sound of his silencer on his gun and how lethal and deadly that you hear that little sound and
yeah,
immediately it's just death. That was a wild, like even the choice of the cattle oxygen, whatever you call that, butcher's tool for taking out a cow.
yeah.
Yeah.
So let's start at the top. So
Yeah.
my first watch experience, very similar. Like I was entirely immersed and came away with it going, I need to watch that again. And it was one of those movies where I went with the guys, and you're at the draft house and they have a little bar there. So when you're out, we went to the bar and we talked about the movie for an hour and a half. Like it was that good. And it's still, every time I watch it, I notice other things. So let's start with the Coen brothers. They're the directors. They most of their bigger movies or their most well-known movies are ones that they've directed together, which is, I imagine challenging. In all over the place. They're all very similar in that, sometimes they do like dark comedies, like Burn After Reading, Brad Pitt, which was a great one. Um, Obviously, No Country for Old Men. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is a modern rendition of the Odyssey from Homer, basically. With
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah.
it's which I think is being remade
Which,
right now.
yeah, Christopher Nolan's doing it right now, and
He's doing an
that's gonna
Odyssey right now.
have to be awesome. It's gonna have to be great.
So we'll have to watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou again, ahead of that. But the bigger ones, the ones he's really known for, Fargo, which was kind of the one that I think put the Coen brothers on the map for most people. Did you see Fargo?
I did. I saw Fargo. I saw bits and pieces of it too. I feel like with that movie, I remember parts of that movie more than I do the movie itself. Like the accents, the wood chipper, the guy. I can't think of
Yeah,
his name right now. And then, of course, I'm drawing a blank on her name. I
and that's a
just
great
watched the
point.
movie.
That's a great point that you don't remember a lot of plot points and even the premise, because their best movies are the premise, the plot, the way they drive and assemble a movie is so different. It takes you out of your head a little bit, and it's hard to really kind of connect it to other movies. They don't do a simple 3 act. Here's the protagonist. Here's the antagonist. Resolution and all that sort of stuff. It's all over the place. Um, so yeah, and they don't resolve all the time. One of my favorites from them is A Serious Man, which they did in 2009. So it's a couple of years after this one. Um, uh, Michael Stuhlbarg plays the lead character, and you're immersed kind of in a Jewish community, modern day Jewish community, and it's one of those ones that it's not for everyone. It can be hard to watch, but it is such a brilliant film in terms of how it doesn't resolve. It puts you at the end. It has this, for me, it's a beautiful ending, the way they wrap it up, and not to spoil it or whatever, but like it ends with just this weird cut, like a hard cut, similar to No Country for Old Men, where like that's it. I remember when I went to see No Country for Old Men the first time, there was a woman sitting behind me with her friends or friend or whatever, and when it ended and it cut, you could hear her say, "That's it? What?"
Yeah.
Like, because it ends abruptly. And A Serious Man
Right.
does that. It causes you to extrapolate your own idea of what the movie was about. And that's really one of the main reasons I love No Country for Old Men. It's not just this simple film like a lot of Coen brothers are. They really take you into a premise and then wrap it in a package that's completely different. Like The Big Lebowski,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Great movie, very rewatchable, incredibly quotable, funny, serious, but it has this underlying theme that I think everyone misses. Um, and and that's fine because it's still entertaining. But if you had to sum up the meaning, like what's the takeaway from Big Lebowski? What would you say?
Oh man.
It's hard. It's difficult. Like, what
Yeah.
was that movie about?
Yeah, exactly.
What did he want? What was he after? What was the
Yeah.
driving motivation? All
Right.
those
Right.
things. You know what the movie was about? As, a middle-aged dude, you can still have really good friends, and no matter where you are in life. It was really a movie about just having friends and doing stuff with your friends. Like that's really what it seemed about
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you just had these guys who, they throw you off because it's weird and they get in some weird snafus, and it's hilarious and it's out of pocket, and you might get caught up in trying to figure out, well, what's he want? Does he want, does he just want a carpet or what? But it's
Yeah.
really about friends,
Right.
and it's such a good movie. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that what you're saying is, when you watch a movie, with this movie, it highlights a separation of movies in a way where in one type of movie, I would say the majority of tells you the story.
yeah.
It tells you, it just takes you through the story. It has the typical parts of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a different type of movie that allows the viewer to come up with different conclusions, to come up with different outcomes, or to put the story together in the viewer, each individual viewer's own way. And I
Yeah,
think
you
that
have to
that's
work.
one of the things that makes this movie so great is it leads you to do the work of putting it together. And sit down talking about it with your buddies afterwards. That's so much of what makes this movie great is you start talking about those subtleties and what you saw and what it made you think.
And whatever you thought, you're not wrong, because that's how you assembled it in your head.
Exactly.
That's your version of the story, and the moral themes on all those sorts of things. So that really, if you don't like that, if you don't like working for a movie, you don't like kind of constructing and connecting things, you're going to struggle with this. So I'll link it in the show notes, but there's a great channel that I've been following for years. It's Lessons from the Screenplay. And this guy kind of breaks down very specific plot elements and touches on a lot of the mechanics of screenwriting and character development and all those sorts of stuff. And he has a brilliant piece on this movie, which really highlights why it's so good. And that's really this concept of don't give the audience 4, give them 2 + 2, which is allow them to assemble it. So at the beginning, you asked, well, when was this movie set? It never says this
Right.
was
Yeah.
1980,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You see the cars. Even in the narrative at the beginning, Ed Tom says, well, this guy got killed last year over in San Antonio, blah, blah, blah. He described a real thing that happened in 1979. So it's buried in there. You're not supposed to know that, but
Mm-hmm.
they go into that kind of detail. So it tells you it's 1980. A couple times you hear about, you see like, when a tag is going to expire on a car, the year of a car, and that sort of thing. It tells you what year it is, but he never tells you it's 1980. But you have to extrapolate that. And then same with the characters. So it is very, it starts off with a narration by Ed Tom, who's the sheriff, played by Tommy Lee Jones. And while he's narrating, you see Anton Chigurh get pulled over by another cop and then arrested and taken in. And then once the narration's over, it kind of kicks over to some dialogue. And then we see Anton Chigurh's character start to be developed. So while he's developing Tommy Lee Jones's character, Ed Tom, because he's narrating, you're hearing about his story, and it really kind of talks about his fear and trepidation of where things are going in crime. Like, it's getting too violent. It's getting crazy out there. And it really sums it up. Like you said, that opening monologue is gives me chills sometimes when I'm really locked into it, because he kind of closes it just to say, you got to be in a different kind of place mentally to do this job. And the line he kind of closes it off with is he says, You kind of got to, he says, I think you have to put your soul at hazard, and you have to say, okay, I'll be part of this world. And it's just, then it cuts over and we watch. So we learn all about him,
Yeah.
a lot about him in that dialogue without telling you. We don't know his age, we don't know his name, we don't know what he looks like, but man, we know a lot about him. At the same time, you're watching Anton Chigurh just be this calculated, quiet. You can learn all these things about him even before he talks. You could tell he is very experienced. He's a skilled operator, and that's kind of where the theme that I'm going to touch on. He's a skilled operator. He's probably killed a lot of people because it's just very routine for him. He's just and he's focused and he's mission driven, and there's like emotionless to him. You learn all this about him in the first few minutes of it, and then once that's done, you cut over to Llewellyn, and you said the hunting scene.
Yeah.
You learn about a lot about him right there. You learn he's skilled, not he's out there hunting, and he's successful. He gets a shot, but then he kind of runs into the situation, and he starts to calculate things out, and he deduces things. Okay, this was a drug deal gone bad. The money is somewhere. Whoever the last guy surviving ran off with it.
Money.
Where is he? Where would he go? And so he starts kind of tracking. So he's skilled at tracking, and he kind of has some dialogue, where he says, well, it's hot out, if you need to stop, you're going to stop in shade. So he looks for a tree.
A tree, yeah.
And then he sits back, and this guy's leaning against a tree. Is he sleeping? Is he alive? Is he dead?
Right.
And he sits back and he pulls his watch out. So you get this idea that he's been watching this guy at this tree for a long time without telling you that. And before he approaches it, so you learn all about that he's a skilled operator. Later, they tell you he's a veteran, very briefly. So he's got combat experience. He said, I got 2 tours in Vietnam, this and that. So, but without it telling you learn everything. You learn kind of when this is. You learn about our 3 main characters, kind of their personalities. That's what they're good at. And that's why I love this movie, because it really connects all those things. So just crazy. So your thoughts on how they connect things?
Yeah, the subtleties of what you just were describing start coming together. The subtleties tell you the characters more like who they are,
Right.
And then at the end, something as simple as him standing on the front porch looking at the bottom of his boots tells you that he killed her. But it leaves it a little open to the viewer, like what happened? We didn't hear a gunshot. We didn't know if he really killed her or not. We didn't see it happen. So as a viewer, that 2+, don't give him 4. We're having to do the 2+2. But throughout the whole movie, we see, at some point he has his shoe, he's walking in socks. When he takes out Woody Harrelson, he moves it subtly. It shows him move his feet away from the blood.
Doesn't want blood on his boots. Yeah.
He's covered the guy in the shower. He didn't have to kill, but then he closes the curtain and shoots him so he doesn't get blood on him. Yeah. So that it all culminates to that ending scene of him standing on the front porch of like him taking out she's pleading for her life. Her mom just died. Her husband just died. She doesn't know that he's dead yet, I don't think.
And he's going to flip a coin. We learned about the coin flip earlier in the movie.
And the indecision is a decision of her saying, I'm not choosing, Yeah. It doesn't show the conclusion of that. If she says, okay, heads or tails, like she says, I'm not going to decide. And then the next scene, it comes back to him sitting on the front porch looking at the bottom of his shoes. And that tells you through all those subtleties that he killed her.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Through the whole thing, you're connected with all this stuff. And then so what I like to talk about, because there's, I talked about the woman who was in the theater who was like, that's it, because it didn't resolve. Like for her, it didn't resolve. Like, what she probably wanted. We see Anton Chigurh as this bad guy.
Yeah.
And justice would be him going to jail or being killed.
Right. Moss killing him, and then Moss having to go to jail. Tommy Lee Jones serving justice.
We thought the protagonist was Llewellyn Moss, because that's who we follow, and he's kind of our in film writing or screenwriting, we call him the audience surrogate. That's the person who we're kind of following along. But at the same time, it's Ed Tom at the same time. Like he's you kind of get into his world, his view of things. But for the most time, in terms of screen time and who we connect with as an audience, it's Llewellyn Moss, because he gets the bunny. and he's on the run. And so we want to grab onto something that makes sense. Okay, he has this money, he wants to keep the money, and he needs to make sure he doesn't get killed. He needs to get his wife out of there. So you kind of get caught up in this, right? And so you're expecting the climax of this movie is when they meet, and you get a sample of that when they have kind of a shootout, and Llewellyn Moss gets away, and Anton Chigurh got a little shot up, and they're both kind of wounded, and they go their separate ways. But then when it does happen, when Llewellyn Moss does get killed, one, it's not by Anton Chigurh, it's by the cartel, who was also tracking him, who we're not really following. And it happens off screen. We just show up in the aftermath when Ed Tom shows up. And that's it's basically in the middle of the movie or towards the last third. And it's like, wait, that should have been the final scene. Like, we should have seen. We're not even. Not only did we didn't get to see it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't the way we were expecting.
Right. If he's gonna die, I want to feel it because I'm invested in him at this point. Like, I want to see it slow motion, like him, like falling back and him laying there taking his last gasps. Like, no, come on, man. But no, it just quick. I almost missed it. Him just laying on the floor.
There's
looking back and okay.
There's very little violence shown in this movie. It is implied, and it makes it worse almost. Like, it's heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
There's a story. I don't know how true it is, but it sounds like, because the Coen Brothers said it, is when they cast Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh, he said, "Well, I don't like violence, and I don't like to get blood on me, that kind of stuff." And they both laughed and they said, "Yeah, that's why we got you. That's why we want you." Because you don't really see the violence. You're in the room, when or whatever, when somebody gets shot, but they don't necessarily. It's not always shown. There's at least the big ones, but just little bits of violence here and there are shown. It's not this big action thing, which maybe that's why some people didn't like it. But back to the character thing. This is one thing I love about the movie as well, is most movies you have a protagonist and an antagonist. The protagonist is usually like a good guy who wants a thing, and the bad guy is trying to stop them or get them or whatever. And then you learn about them. You learn what the protagonist wants, what their struggle is, somewhere in the second act. And then you get into the climax of the movie where the protagonist and the antagonist are going to face off, or go to court and have their day in court, and you can't handle the truth, and that's one. That's a normal movie. Sometimes the protagonist and what some screenwriters call the main character, because sometimes it is the same person, right? And that's a typical movie. And in screenwriting, they call that the hero. If you're the main character, you're the person for which the audience is experiencing the movie, and you're the protagonist, you're the good guy, you're the thing you're the person that the audience wants to get the thing that they're after. That's a hero, right? In this movie, and lots of really good movies, it's a different person, the protagonist and the main character. The main character is Llewellyn Moss. He's the person for which we feel and experience the movie, right? And that's where the movie kind of breaks and loses people, because he gets killed before the movie's over, and it's off screen. You don't really see it. It turns out he wasn't the protagonist. He was just the main character. The protagonist the whole time was Ed Tom.
Yeah.
He's the guy that wants the thing. He wants justice.
Yeah.
And he wants two things. He wants to protect Llewellyn Moss, and he's very clear about that. And he wants to find out who this bad guy is, who he just can't imagine, right? And so that's what's different about the antagonist, is obviously, and there's also two of those really, but there's one we focus on, Anton Chigurh, but there's also the cartel, which has hired him. So he's kind of a surrogate for the cartel. So that makes it interesting, because you're kind of, what's true here, and they're all very skilled at what they do. Ed Tom, you learn about him that he's very experienced. He's good at what he does. He's calm. He has a rookie with him, or what, a younger,
which was interesting, because that was like the one character in the movie that was a little well, there were some goofy characters in the movie, like the lady that was over the trailer park, like these quirky little characters that kind of stick out. He was one of them that carried probably the most in the movie, of like, okay, this is almost like comedy.
That is pure Coen Brothers. So watch Big Lebowski is probably one where you can picture the most characters, right? You can understand everybody.
Yeah.
And you think about all the minor characters, like the lady, working the desk at the trailer park, or the guy at the convenience store.
Right. Yeah.
They are so perfectly cast. They're not just grabbing anybody. They are really focused on details to make them memorable, and in very limited screen time deliver a ton of impact. Think of Jesus in The Big Lebowski. How much impact that guy has.
Yeah.
And he's really a non-factor in the
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
He's just used as a mechanism to, clue you into how much they love bowling and how important bowling
Yeah.
is, but he doesn't factor in the overall plot.
Yeah.
He's just part of the scenery. And everyone, and the nihilists in that movie as well. So every little character, whenever you watch a Coen Brothers movie, the detail, the lady in the trailer park, the guy at the convenience store, Llewellyn Moss's mother-in-law, she is absolutely perfect. She's perfect. She's this West Texas old lady.
Yeah.
She's got the accent. I got the cancer. Like,
Yeah.
she's memorable,
Yeah.
but doesn't take over. Like, that is a hallmark of a Coen Brothers movie, is all their bit characters. The lady at the trailer park, what was her significance?
Not giving out information about where he was or where he was going. Right.
Right,
I mean,
but what did it tell us about? Did it tell us anything about characters? What did we learn? The lady working at the trailer park.
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I missed that one.
She's such an important character, and I want to park that there. Okay, what do we learn about the character from her? So park that there, and I want to kind of get into my thoughts on my controversial thoughts on what this movie might mean.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And the question is, who's the bad guy? Is Anton Chigurh really the bad guy?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the bad guy's the cartel, because he works for the cartel, and all this went down because of the cartel. I mean, that's just what I end watching in terms of the bad guy being. We don't really see the bad guy, but we think it's Anton.
Well, there's a scene where he's talking with. I want to talk about code. I want to talk about how someone operates. So think about Llewellyn Moss. Like, how's he operate? I mean, he's stealing money, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that money wasn't his, and as soon as he takes it, that's the beginning of the end for him. And for the whole movie, he's on the run, and he never makes it. But we see subtleties within him about him having some morale, some makes him good. Like the pool scene at the end where that girl is inviting him back into her hotel room, and he's like, "I'm married.
I know what beer leads to.
I know what beer leads to."
So we think he's righteous.
Right,
it's bad guy's money, so it's up for grabs.
Yeah, he's all right.
But he stole it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Through his journey, he's just kind of winging it. He's not sure what's going on. He doesn't understand the state of play. Ed Tom is trying to tell him. He tells. I think he's I can't remember. He's on the phone. I think it's with his wife, and and he says, "Do you think he knows who he's up against out here? What's after?" Or when he's talking, when they go into his trailer, and he pours that glass of milk.
Yeah.
And the younger cop says, "Do you think he knows who's chasing him?" And Ed Tom says, "Well, he's seen all the things I've seen, and it sure made an impression on me." Like, so you have Llewellyn Moss, who stole money, is just winging it, making up as he go along in panic. Sure, he's a skilled operator, but what's he value? If he's truly a moral person, in the light of the law, is he doing right?
Right. No. I mean, no. I mean, there's a lot of conflict within you as a viewer of like, wait a minute, like I'm rooting for this guy, but is he really that good?
And then you look at Anton Chigurh,
and then you question if he's really bad. Like there's parts of him to me.
Obviously obviously he's bad. He's killing people,
Right. Right.
but he stays true to what he is,
Yeah.
what he's about. I do what I do, and this is what I do. And everybody I encounter, I will treat you the same way within my code, right? So you see the coin flip with the guy at the gas station. I don't have any particular beef with you, but maybe I want free gas or whatever, and maybe I'm just messing around, but I'm gonna flip a coin, and the guy has no idea that
His life is
potentially.
at stake.
And we go back and think about that. Oh, was he gonna kill him if he got it wrong?
And you get the intent. You get the feeling that he was going to.
Yeah. And
Like, I thought I was prepared for him to go. The first time I saw it, I was like, "Oh gosh, this poor old guy in this old gas station, for generations, he's going."
And then he goes up into the office. So once he discovers that other people are looking for the money too, he goes back to the office of the accountant for the cartel, and he says, "You picked the right tool for the job. I'm doing this. Why you send someone else?" And he said, "Well, I thought we cover blah blah." And so it seems like it's over, and then he kills the guy because he's mad at him, right? And another guy is in there, and he goes, "Are you going to kill me too?" And he says, "It depends. Do you see me?" Right? Because we learn throughout the movie that very few people know what he looks like, except for Woody Harrelson's character. They're trying to look for a guy. Nobody knows what he looks like. And they're implying that for the most part, anybody that he has any slight beef with or is in the way of what he's trying to do, who's seen him, he kills him. Right. Except for the lady at the trailer park. Why didn't he kill her?
I don't know.
That's the only person who stood in his way in the entire movie that he didn't kill.
Yeah,
she didn't give him the information he needed.
Right.
Sure, he was able to figure it out.
Right.
He
didn't flip a coin on her.
So what do we learn?
Yeah.
What do we learn about everybody
I'm trying
right
to figure
there?
that out. I don't know.
She stood up for her code.
Okay.
It is within my code as the manager of this facility to not give out information. And she stood up to him with her code and said, "I am not giving that information out." And then gave him that stare. And you could see him, oh, she's serious, right? So you go back to the guy at the gas station.
Yeah.
Why do you think he was willing to kill him? He flipped a coin.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think about that conversation. There's a lot happening in that conversation.
Because he's a man who doesn't seem to have a code. He's just kind of winging it. I inherited this gas station because we close now. Well, what time is that? Well, about now. And he's like, this guy's full of shit.
Right.
And so he's willing to kill this guy because he seems to have no code. He doesn't stand up for who he is. He's not being who he truly is in this universe. And so it all comes down to when he's in that hotel where Carson is and Llewellyn's in a Mexican hospital across the river. And he's talking to him, got to kill me. You're crazy. Don't kill me, And he spells it out. This is the most spelled out for what I think the theme of the movie is the whole time, where he says to Carson, he says, "If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule? Why have a code if it's going to bring you to your death?" So I'm by no means saying Anton Chigurh is the good guy, but if you strip away, what our laws are and the morality of killing people and all those sorts of things, the movie is about, one, being a skilled operator, and two, having a code and sticking to it is how you move forward in this universe they've created. And Anton Chigurh, seems to get away without the justice we wanted at the end.
Right.
And he stuck to his code the entire time. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that's why the lady in the trailer park is so important. Because she stood up for her code and it's the only person that stood in his way in the movie that he didn't kill or try to kill. So
Right.
powerful. So there's little nuggets. I love the layers of that movie, and there's just little things you see differently every time. Like until you've watched this thing 10 times, I don't think you've truly uncovered what's in there.
That's the thing. Yeah, you'll miss it.
So
one thing that I caught myself thinking back on, of what significance was the scene, because it was a memorable scene where he's driving and he approaches like the dark bridge and he passes the bird. He shoots at the bird, but he misses the bird, but he just keeps on driving. Like that one scene just kind of sticks out to me. Like, what was the point of that scene? Why did they put that in there? What are they trying to tell me as a viewer?
I think the same thing. Are they trying to show me that he, like, killing people and things is kind of fun for him?
Right.
Or are they just trying to show us that weapon, that gun, because we haven't seen it before and it's unique?
Right.
So
he misses, and he's such a skilled operator.
Right. Maybe he's testing that weapon. That is one of the enigmas. I think I need to watch it again. But yeah, why does he?
Because it's a memorable scene. They put effort into it. I mean, the lighting, the lights on the bridge, he's cruising. Yeah, there's something there, and I missed it. So I don't know.
Do we just need to have him in a car? I've always thought that. What is this? And so the thing I currently think it is they're trying to show us that weapon. They want us familiar with the weapon before he deploys it on people, which is it's like a shotgun looking long gun, but with a big silencer on it. It makes a totally different noise. Apart from when he's out where the drug deal went bad and he takes a guy's gun and kills a couple people. I think that's the first time we see him use a weapon that isn't the cattle killer thing.
Yeah, but he misses the bird.
Yeah. Is it a test shot?
I don't know.
Did we need to see that he's imperfect? Did that plant a seed for Llewellyn Moss being able to get away?
Right. Maybe.
The shootout that happens later, he's using that same weapon.
Right.
And Llewellyn Moss pretty much gets away with just some grazes and things like that. And that guy is shooting at that thing. So maybe it's to show that weapon isn't as accurate.
He's human. He's not just evil.
The sacrifice to make it quieter makes it less precise. Maybe the silencer. I don't know. So there's that's we need to explore that one. But brilliant movie. And I love that conversation of just the moral dilemma of the ethics of it. We just want to say he's the bad guy because he kills people, and Llewellyn Moss is the good guy because we like him. Yeah, but he stole money. He stole $2 million.
Yeah, from the cartel.
Right. Yeah. Right. But does that make it okay? And so we totally lose sight of the underlying theme when he brings it home when he talks to Carson is, if the rule you followed brought you to this, then what use is that rule? And that at the end when he's with Llewellyn's wife, when he's with Carla Jean, I have to. I can't not do this. That's what brings it home. I have to do this. This, as just to say, this is my code. This is happening. The best I can do is flip a coin. It's the best I can do. And it just brilliant filmmaking. So I love No Country for Old Men. Definitely top 10 all time for me. I think it might be one of the best. It might be the best movie ever made for my money. Love it.
Amazing movie.
So anyway, so next week, this week so we have a new pod. So for everybody listening, we have a new kind of show, I guess, on the Suburban Kings podcast. My daughter AJ and I started this week. We did a pilot episode. It's called X and Z, and it is me, a Gen Xer, and her, a Gen Zer, dipping into cultural things like this with the purpose of, hey, you're younger and more in touch with things. Teach us. So we'll kind of incorporate that more into the pod. John will probably bring AJ, and then my son Steele wants to do the same thing. Partly because I love to make sure my kids are good at telling
doing
stories.
awesome stuff.
Yeah, and they both love to talk about. They raised in my house, so we love talking about music and movies.
Heck yeah, dude.
And so, my daughter's she's got a good handle on the popular stuff, the popular movies, the popular music, all those sorts of things. She's trying to get me into anime.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to go on that journey.
Where are you starting? Akira, Fist of the North Star. Are you going with the classics? Robot in the Shell.
No, the one that
Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell.
The one I'm supposed to watch. I started watching Demon Slayer, but there's one.
Golgo 13.
Yeah, she's gonna. Attack on Titan.
Oh.
So I'm told this is not only the best anime series that exists, but it's one of the best TV shows or series things that exist. And I think it rates on IMDb in the top 10. So it's up there with like a Breaking Bad, kind of a thing. So they swear by it. So Attack on Titan, I'm going to give that a go. And kind of do that. So yeah, so my daughter's good with the popular stuff, and my son, when I want to hear the freshest, newest niche music, especially that that's kind of where I come from, where like the stuff nobody else is listening to, at the time you couldn't find on the radio, you had to know people and kind of talk to the guy at the record store. That's my son. Like, we talk about Black Midi or Panchico. He introduced me to Panchico. Like, he's got his finger on the pulse of the really cool stuff. So I'm going to be connecting with Steele on a weekly basis to get the updates on what's the cool niche stuff out there. So
heck yeah. So awesome.
We'll get the newness on the X and Y stuff, and then we're going to do some Ask Dad stuff. Leaning into their networks, and I want to hear from people, that want to ask dads questions that dads might need to know about anything. Maybe you don't have a dad, maybe you're too afraid to ask your dad, that kind of stuff. So we're going to throw that in there and just kind of see how it goes. But yeah, for everybody else, subscribe. Follow. You can follow me on Instagram, John on Instagram. TikTok's going nuts on one of our videos right now. I can't keep up with the comments.
Really?
I do a quick cut of our draft. You saw it on Instagram, where we just, our cover songs, where we just whip through the 10 songs each that were in our draft.
Yeah.
And specifically, I did a quick cut of horrible cover songs. And that's going off on TikTok, and I can't keep up with the comments.
Sweet. Nice.
So I find hot takes do well on TikTok. When you say something sucks, I guess that gets people excited.
Yeah, people love talking about what they think sucks the most, or calling out the thing that sucks from their perspective.
It's also funny to hear people are so into it that they actually comment before they're done listening. Because several times, because that clip starts off with me saying "I Shot the Sheriff" by Eric Clapton is the worst cover of all time,
right? Yeah,
and then you talk about the one from Aquaman,
Pitbull
doing Africa, and then the last one we mentioned is Stained or whatever that band is doing
Sound of Silence.
Sound of Silence, and people have commented that that's the worst cover in there before they finish watching it because they don't even hear us say it, and so that's. Although one person did say that they hate, and this is assuming they hadn't seen the other video where I say Chris Cornell's Billie Jean is my number one draft pick.
Oh, and they said they hate it.
They said they hate it, and I was like, oh.
But you know what? I think that only solidifies your choice.
Yeah,
because real good things have two sides to it. Just like the movie we talked about, I guarantee you, people hated No Country for Old Men.
Oh, I know. And I always fall into the trap when people say they hate it. I'm like, well, you just didn't understand it. Well,
right.
It's not, I will be honest, it's not for everybody. You kind of have to love the kind of movie we talked about, that 2 + 2 = 4. If you want it spelled out, you want a nice, neat bow.
Then go see a Disney live action.
It's not your movie, and that's fine. There's always Hunt for Red October for you. You go watch that. Like, great movie. I love those movies too. So I will admit, it's not for everybody. That's why I kind of love playing. But yeah, if you don't have any haters, you're not really pushing.
That's right.
Art. You're not pushing it. So someo's got to hate it.
Always, man. That's what makes good art. Progress.
All right, we'll see everybody next week.